Developed by Neobalds Entertainment and published by Capcom in 2020, originally for the Sony PlayStation 4 personal computer on Microsoft Xbox One was that of Resident Evil Resistance. The premise of the game was that it offered a player versus player matchup where 5 players would engage in a match where 4 would act as survivors with special abilities or skills and attempt to escape from maps representative of locations from the Resident Evil series, while the 5th, playing as the mastermind, uses traps and other related items or features to prevent them from doing so. The concept was compared to Dead by Daylight, as the survivors in Resistance were all teenagers associated with conditions in Raccoon City just before the viral outbreak that later destroyed the city. Sources later mentioned that Resistance was considered to be that of a spiritual successor of Resident Evil Outbreak, a video game released in 2003 with a similar concept to Resistance. When released, however, critics and gamers mentioned that the game had potential, but there were small details within the game that kept it from being more appreciated or even acknowledged by the gaming community of the time, mostly being that there were no real supports or interest from the game by Capcom, as well as no major updates following its release, no new characters for players to act as, no new masterminds to pit against the teenagers depicted in the game. The only real mention is that Jill Valentine was put into the game because it was bundled with the Resident Evil 3 remake of the time. With everything considered, most analysts now consider Resistance to be a wasted opportunity by Capcom to have a solid game that, if it were to have been supported by the company, as well as updated at an even pace, Resistance could have had years of gaming life for players, as well as revenue for the company of Capcom. But even if something is done, or would have been done, it was far too late for the majority of the gaming community to keep their interest within the game. Sometimes a character can be forgotten because the concepts for the characters in the game were interesting, but nothing was done about it from the publisher that had originally created the game as well as the characters to begin with.